Have you ever been caught talking to yourself and you were so embarrassed and thought, maybe people think I'm crazy? Well, chances are, not only are you not, but you just might be onto something. I'm Dr. Greg Cason, and this is Off the Couch. You know, talking to yourself just might be something that we're all doing a little bit more now that we're all in the quarantine mode. But researchers at University of Minnesota and University of Michigan have actually found that harnessing that self-talk can actually help you to accomplish your goals, especially around healthy eating. They published a study in the Journal of Clinical Health Science that showed that distant self-talk, there's that word distance again, but here it's actually pretty good, that distant self-talk actually can help you to accomplish your goals and eat healthier. Now, what's distant self-talk? That's referring to yourself by your first name or referring to yourself as you or he or she. Not using the word me. That's personalized self-talk. That's the one I do a lot. But distant self-talk is really the way to go. So why is it thought that distant self-talk can be very helpful? Well, it's just that using your own name can actually take the attention away from the food and put it back on yourself. So if I'm looking at a piece of chocolate cake and I'm thinking, yum, that looks good, I just can't wait to eat it, and I think of how it tastes and I just want to dive into that chocolate cake, and then I say, Greg, wait a minute, is that something you want to put in your body right now? You've already put in a whole box of Triscuits and a whole half pound of cheese. Do you really need a big old slice of chocolate cake? And I can actually step back and evaluate that situation a little bit more, and I'm more likely to steer away from the chocolate cake. Pretty good, huh? This distancing thing might be really catching on. Distant self-talk actually puts a psychological distance between us and the thing we crave. It actually allows us to have that distance so that we can actually evaluate it a little bit better. It's really the difference between what do I want and what does Greg want. So to evaluate this, the researchers actually separated the dieters into two groups. They took dieters, separated them, and had one group watch health and exercise videos, fun, and then had the other group watch home improvement videos, which that makes me want to go to the refrigerator a lot myself. But then they had them practice either distant self-talk or personalized self-talk. And the groups who practiced distant self-talk actually were able to resist temptation a lot better, no matter what video they watched. So I think what was really interesting is that you didn't have to be a dieter to have this work. When they looked at non-dieters, they had the same efficacy, the same effect when they used distant self-talk. When they used distant self-talk, they were able to eat healthier. So if I were to say, hey you, don't eat that chocolate cake, I'm less likely to do it. It doesn't matter if I'm on a diet. That distant self-talk saying, hey Greg, go over to the refrigerator and get something healthy. Maybe pick up a banana. Now, there might be something to this psychological distance thing, because it seems that people who view themselves from a psychological distance also end up liking their bodies better. As almost everyone knows, is that people on diets almost always don't like their body. That's usually the reason they're on a diet. But pretty much almost everyone has some issue with their body. Certainly many women and a lot of men have some kind of issue with their body. So researchers in Barcelona actually did a really interesting experiment using virtual reality. The first thing they did was to create a virtual reality world, and then they created 3 avatars based on each research participant's body. They asked the people, what is your ideal body image? And they created an avatar based on that. And then they basically asked, how do you see yourself? Basically what their feared body image is, the thing they don't like. And they created an avatar based on that. And then they just took a measuring tape to the people, and then they got their actual body, and they created an avatar based on that. And then they immersed those 3 avatars into that virtual reality world. And then they took each participant, and they stuck that participant within the purview of their actual body. And they had them in their actual body, in the virtual reality world, rate their attractiveness. And then they took them outside of their body, they put them into the virtual world and had them rate their attractiveness. And wouldn't you know it, when you saw yourself from a third person perspective, when you were outside of your own body, you see yourself as more attractive. The gap between the reality of how we perceive we look and how we actually look may actually be at the root of a lot of body perception disorders, whether it's body dysmorphia or muscle dysmorphia or anorexia or bulimia nervosa. All of them have components of this really screwed up perception of what one looks like. But instead, if we could step outside of ourselves, we just might like what we see. It appears that when we're inside of ourselves, we view ourselves from a highly inaccurate place. That's because our mind is always doing some kind of negative self-talk. We're kind of used to being up there in our heads, and we don't always go out there to see other people. You know, we're often judging other people as having lives better than us and thinking we don't have it as good. We think our body is not as good. We think we're not doing enough, and we're basically putting ourselves down a lot. But if we can step outside of ourselves, we might be able to see ourselves a little bit healthier and a little bit better. You see, this social distancing thing actually might be onto something. Although we're having to keep a physical distance from other people, it may help us to appreciate those relationships with those people because we're trying a little bit harder to reach out and we're trying a little bit better to be responsible. But there's also something about this psychological distancing that might actually be something too. And maybe during this time when we're practicing our social and physical distancing, we can do a little psychological distancing to step outside of ourselves, to look at ourselves and think, hey, you know what? You're not so bad. You're not so ugly. And you know what? Stay away from that chocolate cake. And you know what? Maybe clean up that closet because, hey, Greg, you're going to feel a lot better if you have a clean closet. I'm Dr. Greg Cason, and this is Off the Couch.